Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel, and today I'm doing the anti-TBR tag. Now, just so you know, this is kind of a soft anti-TBR tag. Most of the things I talk about, it's a pretty solid no, never, but there's a few in there that I'm just like, well, maybe in the future. I don't know. So before we get into everything, don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, let's do this. Okay, so the first question is a popular book that everyone loves and I have no interest in. And this one, I know I said this was a soft anti-TBR tag, but this one is an absolutely no, never for me. I will never be reading this. And that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. So I've never read anything by her before. I do have a book by her that I do want to read, but A Little Life is not that. I understand why people love it. I understand loving a heartbreaking, beautifully told story. But one, that book is way too thick to be filled with that much heartbreak. And there's like trigger warnings for everything. And I don't need everything bad in a book like that thick. I don't care. It's not that I don't care, but I don't care. I don't want to put myself through that. I don't want to put myself through that, and I'm not going to. The next question is a classic book or author that you don't have an interest in reading. So I put two authors down for this, and this is kind of where the soft anti-TBR comes in, because I'm not saying I'm never going to read from these authors, but I doubt that I'm reading from these authors in my lifetime. So the first author is William Faulkner. I have read one book by him. I read As I Lay Dying for a college course, and no, I didn't like it. I almost put it down when I got to the chapter that literally just says, "My mother is a fish." And I was like, what is happening? What is the point of this? It was one of the most ridiculous books I've ever read, and I don't really feel like reading anything else from him, but I might. The other author is Proust, and I put him on here mostly because I read a few excerpts of his again in college, and I was bored to tears. I'm sure that it's beautiful and meaningful, but it was just boring. Sorry. Again, I might. Who knows? The next question is an author that you have no interest in reading, and I do have a few on here. Maybe this is less of a soft anti-TBR than I thought. I'm not going to read from these authors. The first author is Rowell. I tried to pick up Eleanor and Park back in the day, and I couldn't get into it, and just as well, because then I heard that there was a lot of problematic stuff about representation in there. So I'm just like, well, didn't miss anything, and don't really need to read anything of hers, because I've mostly moved on from that YA contemporary genre anyway. There's very few that I'm going to get to in my life now, and she's just not one of them. The next author is J. Kristoff. Technically, I have also read from this author. I read Illuminae, but I'm not really counting that as a book by him because it was a book by two people. And yeah, I'm not going to read, his series Nevernight, and I'm not going to read the stuff that he comes out with because, again, he's had some discourse around the representation in his books and where he's gotten some of his ideas from, and he just is a little callous, and I don't really like him as a human. And there's so many fantasy books out there to read that I want to read that don't have this discourse around it, that I'm like, why not put my effort there? And yeah, I'm not going to read anything by J. Kristoff. And the third author is truly an author I've never read from, and I truly never will. That is Nicholas Sparks. I have no desire in my heart whatsoever to read a book by him. I've seen 2 of his movies. That is enough for me. Reading a book by him would take a lot longer than watching a movie based on that book. So if I'm going to consume Nicholas Sparks, it is, if I'm going to take in the stories that he writes, it's going to be on TV, probably with my friends, because I very rarely will pick up one of his movies on my own. The next question is, An author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. This one was pretty easy for me to do. So, the first author is Paula Hawkins, probably best known for writing The Girl on the Train. She's released, I think, 2 other books since then. I read The Girl on the Train, I think when it came out, and I was so excited, mostly because I saw, like, one of the blurbs said it was a Hitchcockian thriller, and I was like, I love Alfred Hitchcock. I love his movies, and I was just like, ooh, this could be for me. And I was eating this book up for the first, like, 3/4 of it. It was so, like, I was involved in it. I was excited about it. I was kind of on the edge of my seat. It was one of the first kind of domestic thrillers with the unreliable female narrator that I had read, so it felt unique to me. And I had all of these predictions going in my head, and I was like, oh, this is a really good red herring because this character seems really obvious, and but it can't be this character, and like, this is really good. Oh, it was that character. My beef with this book is not that it was predictable. That was part of my anger towards it, but not all of it. It's the fact that it was predictable and the reveal was just really, it was not done well. It was a predictable, bad ending. And it made me so angry because I was so excited about the first 3/4, maybe even 7/8 of the book. I was in it and I was excited to see what the big reveal was. And it was just a flat tire. It was a broken guitar. It was terrible. I hated it. And I was just like, you know, no second chances. No second chances. There's too many other authors out there. Paula, no. The other author is Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read 1 book by her and there was nothing wrong with it. It was fine. I read Daisy Jones and the Six. I had a good time. I listened to the audiobook and the audiobook was beautiful. The full cast was amazing. The part that I enjoyed the most about the audiobook had nothing to do with the author and everything to do with the narrators and the production. The book was fine. Again, nothing wrong with it. The characters were they felt real. The storyline was interesting enough that I wanted to know how it ended. But once it was done, I was just like, okay. Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing is like ordering a cup of hot cocoa at a coffee shop, taking a sip, and like, it looks beautiful, and you take a sip and you realize this was hot cocoa mix made with water instead of milk. And who wants that? Who wants that? So I'm sorry. I know everyone loves The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's really pretty. It's been spoiled for me. I know how it ends. And that was the only reason I wanted to read it, was because I didn't know how it ended. Now I know how it ended. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I don't need to read anything else by her. I don't. I really don't. The next question is a genre you have no interest in or you have tried and it's just not for you. This was hard for me because, as you probably know by now, I like everything. I like romance and sci-fi and fantasy and contemporary and nonfiction and everything in between. And I was just like, there's not a single genre that I feel like completely writing off. But I thought about it and I was like, okay, I think I know. This is not to say that I will not try something from this genre at all. At all. This is just a genre that does not reel me in. And that is fantastical or paranormal romance. I like my romance realistic. Or, you know, without monsters. I'm not interested in vampire romance, werewolf romance, ghost romance, alien romance. No, it's just, she's not for me. She's not for me. So again, I'm sure there is at least one book in that genre that is absolutely for me. And I don't know where she is, but she is far away from me because that genre just does not appeal to me at all. This next question, I don't know if I have an answer to. and that is a book you have bought but will never read or have already unhauled. I don't know. I have some books that if I don't read this year, I'm going to get rid of. So maybe we'll just do that. Okay. These 3 books are books that if I don't read this year, I'm just going to get rid of them. These books I bought them when I was in college, so a few years ago. Whenever I had a stressful day or week in school, we had a multitude of thrift stores not thrift stores, but used bookstores within walking distance of campus. So I would go there and I would buy things. And so I don't know what 2 of these are about. I just got them. I do kind of know what one of these is about. So the first book is The Quickening Maze by Adam Folds. I think it's historical fiction. It was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize, and it has horrible reviews on Goodreads. That is not the reason that I'm like, I'm not going to read this. The reviews are not what's keeping me from reading this. It's me. But yeah, if I don't read this year, I'm getting rid of it. Same with The Gravity of Birds. I bought this because of the cover and the title. I don't know anything about it. So if I don't read it this year, it's going bye-bye. This I do know a little bit about. This is loosely based on Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. So I'm probably the most excited to get to this out of these 3. But you know what? It has a pretty cover. Anyway. Yeah, this is another book if I don't get to, I'm going to unhaul. But that has nothing to do with what they're about or reviews or anything. It's just me going, I've held on to these for too long and they need to go if I don't read them. The next question is a series you have, what is my hair doing? It's trying to choke me. A series you have no interest in reading / a series that you started and decided to DNF. I have a few for this as well. So the first one is a series I started and DNF'd. This is not to say I will never get to it, but I probably will never get to it. And that is The Raven Boys, or The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I really want to love this series. I really, really do. I read The Raven Boys and it took me so long to read it. I checked it out from the library to read it with my eyeballs, and I got halfway through and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I returned it. I checked out the audiobook to read it with my ear holes, and I got halfway through and I was just like, it's kind of boring. And then I read it in tandem. I finally got through it by reading, by switching it up, reading with my eyeballs and reading with my ears. And I finally finished the book and I was just like, don't care. I really don't care. All the ley lines and why what's his name is so obsessed with them. I was just like, I don't care. I was bored. The characters were well developed for me. It wasn't that. It's not you, it's me. Maybe it's you, I don't know. But I didn't care. And the first book ended with enough of a rounded out ending that I was just like, well, I don't need to know more. Another series that I definitely am not going to read is Nevernight, again by Jay Kristoff. For the same reason that I said I would never read Jay Kristoff. There's so many other fantasy books that I could be reading that aren't by him. And then another series is something that I did read the first book to, and I'm just not going to finish. And that is the whole P.S. I Love You, P.S. I Still Love You, Always and Forever, Laura, whatever her name is. I enjoyed P.S. I Love You. It was fun. I read it in a day. It's exactly what I needed when I read it, and I have no desire to read the other books. The final question is a new release you have no interest in reading. I only wrote down 2. They were the 2 that came to mind. I'm sure there's more. I hope there's more, because if I have an interest in reading every new release, then we're going to have a problem. But the 2 books that I have no interest in reading this year is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because I have no interest in reading Taylor Jenkins Reid. And also, even if this had a different author, the plot doesn't really appeal to me. Like, this is not the type of fiction that I run towards. So I won't be reading that. The next book is Book of Night by Holly Black. This is simply based on the reviews and the fact that I tried to read The Cruel Prince and could not get into it. I do want to try that again. That series is not on this list because I do want to try that again. I just think I wasn't in the mood for it, but I haven't read anything by Holly Black. The fact that it took me a while to get into The Cruel Prince when I did try and read it is a little bit of a, maybe she's not for you, I don't know. But I will not be reading Book of Night simply because everyone that I follow, all the reviews I've looked at are like it's underdeveloped. The main draw of this book with like the shadow magic system, I believe it is not developed, is not explored, it's just talked about. And I'm like, well, if there's cool magic, I want to see it happen. And it just seems, again, I could be spending my time reading things that I feel more strongly about and that I feel that I'm genuinely going to enjoy and not just getting on the new release hype train. Yeah. So that is the anti-TBR tag. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. I'd love to know an author or a book that you are just simply not interested in, and that you feel that you're never going to read. Again, about half of these are kind of a soft no for me because I hate saying absolutely never because I hate eating my words. But there's a solid amount of these that I'm just like, no. We're like Paula Hawkins, no. J. Kristoff, no. We're not going to be meeting again. With that, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!